Today we're building this automation scenario on make.com that would allow us to generate entire ebooks with a single click. Hey guys, welcome to another episode. So today we'll be looking at automation and specifically how we can use automation workflows like scenarios that you can build on make.com to generate really long form content using OpenAI's ChatGPT. I know custom GPTs are all the craze right now, but if you try to train a custom GPT to write ebooks for you, you see that it will do it, but the longest I got was about 2,000 words, which is not an ebook, it's a long article. Before we dive into building the automation workflow, which I'm going to show you step by step, it's really easy. But before we do that, I just want to remind you about the newsletter that I started a few months back. You can check it out on the first link in the description below, and it's completely free. If you don't like it, you can always unsubscribe. Let's not waste any more time. Let's just open make.com and start working on this amazing automation scenario. The first thing I have here is an Airtable base that has two tables, and I'm using the free version of Airtable. You just sign up for it. And the first table is ebooks. This is where we'll type in our topic, and we'll be using make.com. Just create a blank new scenario. And we'll take this topic, generate a title, generate a list of chapters, keywords, description for the book, and then we have ebook chapters where we'll be generating each of the chapters for each book. And we'll even play around with generating images for each chapter. Before we get started in Make, there is one important thing here. We want those chapters to be linked to those ebooks. Just gonna add a new field here. I'm gonna say link to another record in ebooks. I'm gonna say create field. I just want the title here as a lookup field. So I'll have the title from the ebook that this chapter belongs to. And if we go back to ebooks, you see now that we have ebook chapters linked here. So we'll be able to see which chapters are attached to each ebook. Now let's move to Make and start building our scenario. Their free plan is really generous. You can sign up for it, and it'll be more than enough to generate a lot of ebooks. The first thing we need is we want to link our Airtable base and get this topic from here, and we just delete all those empty records. I'm gonna create a new record, and for a topic, let's just take cold emailing. And that's going to be our topic for the first ebook. So now let's link Airtable in our scenario here. So I'm going to type Airtable, pick it, and I want to say watch records. And this is going to see if our records created time is after when we last run it, and it's going to run the whole scenario. Need to add my Airtable here. So I'm going to say Airtable OAuth. I'm going to say Airtable ebook automations, save, and it's gonna ask me to authorize it through this pop-up. I'm gonna add a base and gonna say ebook generator. I'm gonna add only this base. Grant access. That's how linking different services pretty much works. So you need the connection, and once you set it up, you can then pick it out from a drop-down. Now let's grab the base on the ebook generator, and we want to be looking at the ebooks table. Our trigger fields will be created. So this is our created date. You can also use last modified, but then anytime we make changes, this will be considered a new record. And that's it. Let's hit OK. And we need the label field. Let's say the topic. OK, from now on. And that's our first module. This is our trigger that would allow us to enter this scenario. Gonna say that I don't want to run it at regular intervals. I want to run it on demand because this is probably something that I won't be like adding topics throughout the day, so that I would want this to listen and generate it immediately. As soon as I add a topic, I can come here and just run once, and that's it. One thing important about Make that you need to remember is that there's no autosave, so you actually have to save your work regularly. And if by any chance you close the browser, you're gonna lose any changes that you haven't saved. This is listening for our new records and grabbing the topic. So the first thing we want to generate is our titles. Let's generate a title for our ebook. We're going to use OpenAI for this. I'm gonna type in OpenAI, and I'm gonna say create a completion. I already have my OpenAI connection set up. It's really easy to do. You can start adding it here, and if you get hung up on any step, it would show you exactly how to do it in their online help. I'll do create a chat completion, and I'm gonna use 3.5 turbo because it's like fraction of the cost of GPT-4, and in my test, it's been enough to handle this use case. Now we need to add some messages, and the first message I want to add is a system prompt. I have it here on the side, so I'm just gonna paste it in here. You're a professional ebook writer with 20 years of experience in writing highly detailed instructional ebooks on various topics within business development, etc. You focus on providing detailed, factually correct, and well-researched content, ensuring each ebook is informative and authoritative. Your style is clear, concise, and maintains a formal tone. You write incredible high-converting ebook titles. This is a specification that I'm adding here because we're generating the title. Otherwise, this top part will pretty much be present in each of our prompts. We wanted the system to be set as such. We're gonna add another item to the messages, and this is gonna be our user message. Here we're gonna say generate a highly converting title for an ebook about the topic. I'm gonna put it in a bit, and then a reply only with the ebook title. Do not put quotes around the ebook title. I'm adding this because once in a while it would return it in quotes, and it still works. We can edit it at the end, but if we can like save us another step, it will be much better. So now let's provide the topic here. As you can see, every time we're editing anything can make, we get access to all the previous steps, and I accidentally added chapters row. So here we want to grab the topic and it's going to add it here. And as we progress through the other steps, we'll always have access to all the previous steps. This is our setup for our generation here. I'm going to hit the OK, and also want to rename it because this is going to be quite a long scenario. So I want to have everything renamed so it's easier to track and to edit everything. I don't need to rename this one, but for the sake of consistency, let's say that this is watch for new ebook entries. The next thing we want to do is to update this title back to Airtable, and you can wait and pile a lot of changes together and then update the record at once, because keep in mind that you get number of operations as a limit for each month, and each of those modules is a separate action that draws down from your operations number. Before we can move forward, let's run this because we need to see what OpenAI's API would return. I'm gonna say run once, and then didn't grab anything because we created this after we created this entry here. So let's just create another entry, and I'm gonna say call outreach with email, for example. Then back here, I'm gonna say run once, and now it's gonna grab the new entry and execute the OpenAI prompt here as well. Now we can add Airtable again and say update the record. I'm gonna use the same connection, and it's gonna ask me to update it because the first module only asked for read access, and now we have to grant write access. I'm gonna say ebook generator and grant access. Pick the base, the ebook generator base, and pick the table ebooks. I need the record ID, and I can grab it from our first module here. This is the record ID that I want to be updating, and we want to update the title. So this is the only field that I'll change. I'll leave the other ones blank. And for title, we're gonna go from our OpenAI module here. We're gonna go to choices, message, content, and you see here a preview, the ultimate guide to cold outreach, something. Gonna hit OK, and I'll say update title and Airtable. Now that we have our topic, we generated the title, we updated to Airtable, the next step would be to generate our chapter. So the way I'm looking at this is I want to have the title, then I want an outline, but not a detailed outline, just a list of chapters. And for each chapter, we're going to generate a long form piece of content thus allowing us to, when we put everything together, have an entire ebook instead of just couple thousand words that GPT-4 assumed were enough for an entire ebook. I'm gonna add a new model. I'm gonna use OpenAI and we'll say create a completion. I'm gonna pick the same model, GPT 3.5 Turbo. I'm gonna add our messages. So the first one is system. There's the message content. It's the same as before, just at the end says you write incredible, highly converting ebook outlines. Now it's not very creative, but it works. The next message is gonna be from our user. I'm gonna say, write a list of, let's start with 5 chapters for the ebook titled, and here we can grab the title from the previous module, the one here, because we already updated it, or we can go here and grab it from OpenAI again, but I'm just gonna grab it from here because this title and it's easier to visually track what's going on. And we're gonna say provide only the chapter titles as bullets. Do not write subchapters or outlines of the chapters. Reply only with a list of chapter titles. You can go in and adjust those as you see fit, especially if you're experimenting with a specific niche. You might want to put that in here, or a specific structure or something like that. Gonna hit OK. Let's test what we have up till here. Gonna go to Airtable. Gonna just say cold emails. Gonna run it. Generated the title, updated it, and now it's generating our chapters. If we go here, we'll see that we have the title. We don't have the chapters because we only generated them. We haven't saved them back to Airtable. Gonna save my scenario. Next, let's add some keywords based on our title and our list of chapters. I'm gonna say OpenAI, again, create a completion, create a chat completion, GPT 3.5, and add our system message, which will be similar to what we had before with your style is clear, concise, and maintains formal tone, and I don't need anything more here, anything specific. I'll add another item, the row user, and the message content would be list keywords for an ebook about the topic, and I'm gonna add our topic here called, and I'm gonna add the title, and with the following list of chapters, and here I'm gonna provide the result from our ChatGPT request here. So I'm gonna say choices, message, content. That's the list. Close my quotes. I'm gonna say only list keywords separated by a comma. Do not include anything else. We now have this one, and we can now save the chapters and the keywords to Airtable. I'm gonna add a new module, Airtable, update the record, our base. We're still working with the ebooks table. Our record ID is here, ID, and we're only updating chapters, row, and keywords. So this is the row generation of all the chapters. So this was this here, this OpenAI here, choices, message, and our list of chapters. And our keywords will be our latest OpenAI, choices, message, content. And we don't have anything here because we haven't done a test generation. Hit OK. Let me go back and rename those because they're already starting to get a bit messy. So this is generate chapters, list, and this is generate keywords, and this is save chapters and keywords. Because right now we're only getting a list of those chapters either as bullets or maybe even as a comma separated values. So we want to convert this to an array so we'll be able to loop over it and generate the contents for each chapter separately. We'll use another module by OpenAI that allows us to convert text to structured data. I'm going to add OpenAI, and here it is, transform a text to structured data. I'm going to use the same model and our text to parse. Because we already saved it in the previous module, I'm gonna say chapters row, and our prompt will be parse a clean list of chapters. We wanna define our structured data. I'm gonna say parameter name will be chapters, Description will be ebook chapters, and data type will be an array of text. And I'm gonna leave this parameter required to no and hit OK. Gonna rename this to parse chapters to array. And let's run another test generation and see if everything works up to here. And let's switch it up. I'm gonna say homemade beer, for example, run. It's gonna start generating the chapters list, generating the keywords, saving everything, and now parsing the chapters to an array. If I go here, you see that now we have our homemade beer, ultimate guide to transforming your house into a dream home. I don't think it got the topic. It got hung up on home, maybe. And our chapters are here. Yeah, it definitely didn't catch the beer one. And I don't know if that's like a one-off, or maybe it's because they've been dialing up the filters for safe words for the GPT models. I don't know. Even though the keywords have it, so homemade beer, creating perfect sanctuary, and things like that. So this is a bit all messed up, but doesn't matter. We can easily rerun generations. Back to our scenario. Now that we have parsed the chapters and we have the structure of the result, we can start iterating over those. So we'll add a flow control. This is one of the internal tools that Make has. So flow control, and we want an iterator. So we want to iterate over an array. And this array will be from our parsing module. We're going to say chapters. Okay, so rename this to iterate over each chapter. As we're iterating over each chapter, we'll start adding those to our ebook chapters table. We'll add an Airtable module. I'm gonna say create record, our ebook generator base. Our table is now ebook chapters, and we'll provide the chapter title, which is going to be our value from our iterator. This iterator will run everything after it for each of those chapters that are part of this array that we generated here. So for each time that it's run, we want the value, which is going to be the title of the chapter. And we also want to add this connection to the ebooks. So I want to say that this is connected to the ebook and provide the ID of the ebooks record. Click OK. Next, we want to generate the actual content for each of those chapters. So after we create the record, we're going to use OpenAI. And again, you can do the generation before saving everything to Airtable. But as I'm building flows, I want to save everything right after I generate it and do it. And afterwards, we can go over and optimize if we decide that we need that. But especially for complex scenarios that I'm not gonna run like often on a regular basis, gonna run them occasionally, I actually prefer to have it broken down in as many steps as possible, because it's much easier to navigate that way, and it's much easier to introduce changes to the way things are flowing. We'll say create a completion. We use the GPT 3.5 module, but we're actually gonna switch to the Turbo 16K, so this has a larger context and it will be able to generate more text. Our system role is the same as before. We just add you write incredible, highly engaging long-form content and develop amazing instructional pieces of text. Remember that we're saying that this generator is an expert in instructional content. So you need to adjust this to fix your exact niche or your exact needs. Then we'll add another item. It's gonna be our user, and our message here will be write a long, detailed, highly engaging and instructional chapter of the ebook called, I'm gonna grab the title here, the ebook with the keywords, and I'm gonna grab the keywords as well. I'll say reply with the entire chapter, excluding the title. Chapter text must be formatted as valid HTML. I want it in HTML because it would make it easier to convert it afterwards. It should include all the relevant citations. I want it to link to resources if it uses resources, which usually gives another level of authenticity to an ebook if it has citations. So it's linking to actual resources that you can use to check the factual correctness of what the author is sharing. relevant citations that were used. I'm gonna say never use HTML, body, and H1 tags because I'll be combining all those chapters. So I don't want like multiple HTML tags, multiple body tags. And I also don't want it to use H1 tags because I want to reserve those for the title that I'll be adding separately from this generation. And do not start with the chapter title. I'm repeating this and it still gets it wrong once in a while. Provide only the chapter content. Okay. For each chapter, we also want to have a short summary of the chapter. I'm going to say add another completion OpenAI module. I'm going to select 3.5 Turbo. And I'm going to say for the roles system, I'm going to say just something shorter in various topics within business development, etc. I'm going to add an item. It's going to be our user. And here we'll say write a concise, short summary of the ebook chapter. We got the E. I guess book chapter would also work, but be consistent. And we want the chapter title from here when we created the record. We want to say, here's the chapter content. And I'm going to provide this in a second. I'm going to say reply with the summary only. So if we directly add the chapter content here, we might face issues if for some reason we get a really long chapter. But since this chapter is from one generation, you might be okay with that. But remember, we used the 16K model, and here we're only using the regular model. So what I want to do, instead of directly providing the content that we generated here, I want to use this function called substring. I say substring, and what it allows us to do is cut off just a portion of the content. So here we'll add from our latest generation, our message content. And here we're gonna say start at 0, and we wanna end, let's say, I don't know, we can try with like 30,000 characters. And if you end up having an error thrown, you can just reduce that and play around with it. That's a good habit to get into, so making sure that you're covering potential errors that might arise. Hit OK, and we haven't linked those, so let's rename those. So this is generate chapter content, and this is write short summary. Next, I want to generate an image, and feel free to skip that because it would significantly increase the price of each ebook generation, but it's still quite cheap, especially if you're like looking at targeted topics. It would still be way under $1 for a 5 to 10 chapter ebook, so 5 to 10 images. I'm gonna add another module, OpenAI. I'm gonna say generate an image. I'm gonna use DALL-E 3, and for my prompt, I'm not gonna go into too much detail here because DALL-E 3 has this prompt rewriting thing that the model does. So when you write a prompt, they have almost like an entire ChatGPT rewriting this prompt to make sure that it's safe. And this means it's really hard to get exactly the results that you want to get. So just want to show you how to set it up, but if you really want to make this work, you have to maybe set up a playground in OpenAI and try with different prompts. I'm going to say create a chapter feature image for an ebook chapter called, just going to give it the chapter title and keywords, and I'm also going to give it the keywords from here, and an ebook called, and I'm gonna give the ebook title as well. I'll try to add a few things, so like corporate illustration style. We're gonna say use a corporate illustration style, generate 16:9 aspect ratio images, and I'm gonna say okay. Now that we have all those generations, let's add them to Airtable. First, rename this to generate chapter image. I'm gonna add another module, Airtable, update the record because we already created it here. Our base will be ebook generator and our table is ebook chapters. Our record ID is the one that we created here. So ID from here. Content is going to be generate chapter content, choices, message, content. We're going to add the picture here. So our file URL will be from our image generation here. I'm going to say data and I'm going to say URL. And for a file name, we're just going to leave Airtable to generate the file name. And we'll also add our short summary, which is from here, write short summary, message, content, and that's it. Let's rename this to create chapter record, and this will be update chapter record. So now that we have iterated over all the chapters, created them and added all those details, we want a way to aggregate those and save them as the ebook content. But before we do that, I'm gonna save it and let's test it and see if we get chapters in our ebook chapters table here. I'm gonna say brew beer at home. Try again if it was a fluke or if it's something to do with safety precautions. Here, run once, generated our title, we're generating the chapters list, the keywords, parsing the chapters. And now we'll start iterating. You see here that it gets one, so we're generating the chapter content, taking a bit longer because we're asking for a long form piece of content. It's now generated the short summary, now generating the image, which might also take a couple more seconds than the shorter generations, but I'm skipping over those. And then it updated the record. And you see now that it started doing this again. So now it's on number 2. And this is what's happening here is it's taking those 5 chapters from here that we parsed and it's running this entire flow for each of those chapters. Just gonna let it run for a few seconds and be back when it's all done. Okay, it's all done and it took about 3 minutes, something like that. Let's go ahead and see what we have generated here. So we have the complete guide. Oh no, so this one was a fluke. The complete guide to brewing beer at home. Master the art of crafting your own delicious brews. Then we get the chapters, the raw format of the chapters, 5 chapters. We have the keywords. And here now you see that it's added those chapters, which means that if we go to ebook chapters, it generated them. You see, even though we said do not start with the chapter name, it still tends to start with the chapter name a lot of the times. But of course, we'll need to go over and edit a lot of things. So this is fine, I guess. So the images, I expect they won't be too good. Okay, that's not that bad. Here, what we have. Okay, we'll see. The only thing I have to say for now is that this is not 16:9 by no means, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and continue building our scenario here. Once we have all those chapters generated, we want to be able to combine them. So we'll be able to save them in our ebooks content. I'm going to add a text aggregator. So it's part of the tools. I'm going to say text aggregator. And my source model will be this one, iterate over each chapter. So I'm going to say that the source starts from here. I say that we start from here, the aggregation. And for text, I want to say H1. It's going to be my chapter title, even though it already got added some cases, but I want it to be an H1. Then I'm going to add a new line and I'm going to say image source equals, I'm going to say picture URL. I'm gonna add a new line here as well, and then I'll add the content of the entire chapter. And this would iterate over those and add them one below the other. I'm actually gonna say a new line here as well. Okay, and you see now that this kind of got colored because this is now a closed loop. The next thing I want to add is I want to write a description for our ebook based off of the text that we now have. I'm gonna add another OpenAI module. I'm gonna say create a completion, chat completion module. We're gonna use the 16K version again because it allows for more text. Our system is gonna have the same thing that we've been having. And for our user, we're gonna say write a highly converting, not very creative, I know, description for an ebook called, I'm gonna grab the ebook title from here. With keywords, I'm gonna add the keywords here's a part of the content of the book. And here again, I'm gonna use the substring. Just wanna make sure that I'm cutting it off so it's not too much. Here we'll add this text. So this text aggregator that grabs all the chapters, puts them in one text field. I'm gonna grab this text and I'm gonna say from 0 to, now let's go with 35,000 and hit OK. This will be our generate description. And we'll add that to Airtable in a bit, but before I add those to Airtable, keep in mind if you add a lot of chapters, so if you change the number of chapters to a high value, you might end up overflowing the amount of text that Airtable can hold in this content field. So in order to avoid that, before we save to Airtable, I want to generate a Google Doc. That's why I have my Google Drive up here. I'm actually not gonna use Google Drive. I'm gonna use Google Docs directly. I say Google Docs, say create a document by adding the content of HTML format, which is, we tried to generate everything in HTML. I say create a document. I already have my connection here and gonna say that I want the name to be ebook dash and then the title. I want the content to be the text from here and I want to save it in my drive and ebook generations from make, hit OK. So now it's going to generate a Google Doc. Now that I'm sure that I have this saved, I'm going to go to Airtable and say update a record, say the base ebook generator. Our title will be, our table will be ebooks. The record ID will be, I don't know, just this record ID that we started with. And what I want to update is, I want to update the description. For one thing, which is from here, generate description, choices, message, content, and also gonna provide the book content, which is the text from here. Gonna hit OK. And now let's go ahead and test the whole thing. I'm gonna save it, go here and let's add another topic, which is gonna be now giving professional presentations. And I'm gonna run our scenario. And I'll be back once it has generated everything. And while this is running, I just want to show you, so this is our previous test, and you see that it cost us 28 cents to generate the 5 images, and then another 5 cents for everything that we generated in terms of text, all the 5 chapters that we generated. So I think that's a pretty reasonable price, and even for a longer ebook, it'd still be like well under $1. And of course you can duplicate your make scenario and just take out the image generation part. So while you're playing around with your prompts and fine-tuning everything, and after that you can go back and add it again. Okay, this is done. It again took about 3 minutes. So now let's go ahead and see what happened in Airtable. So we have our title, Expanded Master the Art of Professional Presentation, the ultimate guide to captivate audiences and achieve success. Pretty good title. Let's see the chapters: presentation for success, crafting compelling content, designing visually stunning slides, mastering delivery techniques, overcoming challenges, and handling Q&A sessions. That's pretty good. And we have some keywords, presentation, Q&A sessions, things like that. And you see here that we have book content, which means that our scenario ran through generating all the chapters, saved those as separate chapters, but then went ahead and added everything in Airtable, which means that we should have a Google Doc as well. I'm gonna go here and here's some previous tests that I tried and mastered the art of professional presentations. Let's open this up. Preparing for success, setting the foundation for a professional presentation. And you see here that we have an image, and the images are a bit out of bounds, but we can just reduce those, and it's actually not that bad. With some editing, you can probably use it. And you see here that even though we're within the first chapter, it still says chapter 5, mastering delivery techniques to engage. And I went through and read a bit more. So what's good is that you have citations, and some of the times those are links, some of the times you have to Google them and link them on your own, but it got all jumbled together. And I think I know what we missed. So here where we say generate chapter content, we're giving it the title, but that's the title of the ebook. So we're not giving it the title of the chapter itself. So let's fix that. Write a long, detailed, highly engaging and instructional chapter. I'm gonna use titled. I don't know why. Chapter titled, and we're gonna say chapter title of the, I'm gonna say from the ebook called title with the keywords. Let's run another generation and see if that works. I'm gonna go with the same topic. Let's run it, and I'll be back as soon as it's done. Okay, the generation is complete. Let's go ahead and see what happened. Mastering the art of persuasive presentations, techniques and strategies for professional success. Have the chapters. You see this time it says chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. So it's not really consistent, but those are again small editing tasks that we need to do afterwards. We have some book content here. So let's go to Google Drive, and this is the one. Let's open it and see if it's a bit more cohesive. So chapter 1, understanding the psychology of persuasion. We have persuasive presentations. Yeah, it's DALL-E is not the best, and also generating text with text to image models. They tend to mess up the text quite a lot. Chapter 1, understanding the psychology of persuasion. So it added it, even though we specifically told it not to add the chapter title, but that's quite easy to remedy. The power of persuasion, the role of cognitive biases, the importance of delivery, the power of body language. Okay, so it looks as if now it's working. So now the content is part of the chapter. And you see here that each chapter is about 1 to 2 pages, and it has some references, which is pretty great. Yeah, overall, you should definitely read through everything and edit it. It's a decent small ebook. I want to show you one that I did in my tests before. There's no images in this one, and I tasked it to write 50 chapters, so that took quite a lot, like half an hour or something like that. But you see here that they have 132 pages. And because I guess it cited some articles, which is not good, by the way, it even included some images. If I rely on this generation, I'll never post it directly, of course, but it's still a pretty great starting point. So of course, going with 50 chapters is absolute crazy, but you can go with like 7 or 10 and get around 30 pages of raw content that if you can then add a bit of your personal experiences to that, and maybe a few examples, a few images or diagrams, and trim down a bit of the fluff that large language models end up generating inevitably, you should be able to generate an ebook much faster than writing it from scratch. And the possibilities here are really only limited by your imagination. I had a friend that I shared this with when I first built it, and he showed me recently that he actually went in and said here that he's not generating chapters, he's generating sections. And then within each section, he generated chapters, and within each chapter, he generated outlines with subchapters. And he got this like a 3-4 layered loop, but it allowed him to generate huge pieces of content that were much more cohesive than any other way that I've seen for generating really long pieces. Of course, it still requires a lot of editing, but at least you get a significant portion of the initial rough writing work out of the way. There you have it, your own ebook generator that can actually produce decent sized ebooks. And you can even experiment with adding AI-generated images from DALL-E directly within this workflow. Obviously, you won't get ebooks that are ready to publish. You'll still have to go through, adjust a few bits. AI tends to repeat itself here and there, but just being able to start from a solid draft, that's the entire length of the content that you're looking for, is much better than getting a detailed outline or a 2,000-word ebook out of a custom GPT. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out this one where we go over different use cases for Make.com. Thank you guys for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and maybe even punch the bell icon to receive notifications every time I upload a new video. Till then, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.